People ask me how I felt. To this day, I'm like, I didn't even know I fall. Based on the circumstances, it wasn't the usual mountain bike riding, you're out with adrenaline rush. It was just a simple, cool cam, showing a co-worker, a trail. And the next minute I know, I asked him if he's okay. Next minute, I'm in a whole physics and science experiment of gravity and different proportions.
Look, you have dark, and good and have evil.
Because it's a different generation, it's a different kind of skill tip generation.
I saw a lot of things at, I would say, trauma.
In the heat of the moment, the adrenaline, I had so much things, I had so much to lose at that time.
Time to change, man. Time to turn around. Time to turn around.
Hi, my name is Duane Cumberbatch, and my turnaround point was when I woke up in the hospital to see metal in my hand. On May 5th, I suffered 2024, suffered a severe injury to my right hand. Me and this, my new friend, took a 100-foot fall down a hill in Bath St. John, and literally that changed everything for me permanently, forever in my life. To wake up and see metal in my hand, to hear that my hand was supposed to get amputated, to hear multiple different consultations based on my injury. Some people thought it was simple, some people thought it was serious. It was a weird space for me in my life, but the reason why it was a turnaround point is I've been through a force of stuff non-stop. Like I told a friend of mine, stuff kept happening every 6 months to me. And I find that sometimes even in conversation of counseling and, mentorship, there are those who go through like severe negative situations, or those who have it all and kind of squandered it, and they make their turn around. It seems like it's okay. But I've always kind of seen to be in the middle of those two analogies, and when I end up then being in a situation of need or hurt, um, it's kind of not taken seriously, even though it's that serious, or the reverse, it's taken seriously, but it's not that serious, and I have to find a way. But not knowing how to live my life, becoming a partially enabled person, kind of put a real spin on certain things. That's what I've been going through for the last 36 months of my life, versus the last 33 years of my life. So the beauty about it is the injury occurred in the middle of my journey, the last 36 months, and allowed me to have a different perspective of life, understand and appreciate the fact that my Heavenly Father has kept me based on the stuff I've been through. Because trust me, if people ask me how I felt, to this day I'm like, I didn't even know I fall. Based on the circumstances, it wasn't the usual mountain bike riding, you're out with adrenaline rush. It was just a simple, cool cam, showing a co-worker, a trail. And the next minute I know, I asked him if he's okay. Next minute, I'm in a whole physics and science experiment of gravity and different proportions. And the one thing I remember was, I always say at the top of that hill, the beauty of the East Coast, Eastern side of the island, sorry, is to die for. And that was the first thing I saw when I woke up, or opened my eyes after the tumble, was it's still a view to die for. Yeah, but it's raising the non-stop challenges, non-stop pain, hurt, suffering, and looking at the accountability aspect of how to find myself here. Looking at the challenges I have in my family, business, relationships, mental, physical health challenges, grieving, all these things encompassing into one nucleus of distraction, so to speak. That literally something that you would take a second nature, suddenly becomes the most dangerous thing that you could attempt, to do. Then when that causes you that pain and that hurt and that unknown view of the future, because again, I went from being an able-bodied person now to, my friends say, 1.5 man. Not, and with my right hand, being a right-handed person, losing my right hand was also a new challenge of having to adjust life, because You know, the heart's completely broken, the wrist is fused, so I don't have the, ability to use it like before. But I'm sharing all this to say that the blessing of not losing my life again for the upteenth time, which became my norm because I've lived with death. It taught me death with friends, My kids sometimes say don't have the Avengers don't have anything on me because that he's always getting hurt, that he always getting my shit, that he always in a space of a negative, but he always smiling, he always moving forward, I never really stopped to appreciate the fact that I myself need to accept that, hey, you know what? You're who you are. Especially when I suffer severe tragedy, including like my fall. I was more concerned with my co-worker than myself. I ended up getting severely injured. And while being injured, I started to manage my co-workers' fear or fright while being injured. So that's what does go hand in hand in my negative space, so to speak. And if you want to take away with like from whoever views this is there's no measurement or label to what you're going through. Only you know what you're going through, you and God. I've been saying movement is life. If I stayed there that morning, who knows what could happen? I could have gone to shop, could have been a worse situation, and I could have died there in that spot. I got up and I moved. A year later, I'm here to sit down and share aspects and points from my life. I hope that someday whoever's this will be encouraged to move on, motivated to move on, inspired to move on. And even if not move on, let's move past the place you think you're stuck. Because once you stop, you're stuck. If you keep moving, if there's 1 foot, you're going to be somewhere else. And in that other place now, you might get new information, new opportunities, new experiences. But here's the joke. Not really a joke, but here's the key. Once you move away from the negative place you were stuck. It's a start. 1 foot in front of the other. And as you move, you will get further away from that negative space. And as you move, you might even see a clear path to move even faster or further away. And once you don't look back, you're going to move forward. One of the things too I remember leading up to, I guess what was attributed to my fall, was after coming out of COVID, there were a lot of everybody had challenges, so I don't want to put mine as priority, but everybody had different experiences. I found myself in a challenging living situation during that period of time when nobody knew what's happening in the world. And it really hit me again, a point in my life where turning or trying to figure out the next move to turn back or turn around from what I was accustomed to. Found myself in a empty 40-foot container, alone in the Cairns. A friend of mine had given me a space to stay due to these circumstances. And literally, it's the first time in my life I ever heard the term people use called silence is loud. I've never heard definite song of silence until that day in my life, or nights in my life. And literally, the crickets sound like they were amplified, the mice, the frogs. It was an interesting experience. But the being alone and being in solitude really helped put a perspective on the reality of the individual, myself at the time, and what my next move was. And in trying to manage my expectations, trying to process what's happening, trying to think about what's my next move, I started to look out how to find myself here. So from even secondary school with no CXCs, even though I had businesses, for the time I was young, always open to learn, open to jump into projects, and get whatever and you can get from those circumstances, to relationship challenges, to grieving, lost children. Buried my first son at 17. Was a single parent at 18. A lot of things that people, make common, make like it's normal, it's okay, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Every single situation is a big deal. I literally sit down and go back through everything. And even though COVID was back in 2020, 2021, and we like to think that because we've passed it, it's over, we don't acknowledge the stuff that still continues and transpires. So imagine just before I broke my hand, some relationships, situations in my life actually started to get resolved or, amended. And it was heavy on my mind because somebody got herself, but all this had to happen to get to this point. And where one would see that as a victory or a joyous moment, I was more trying to figure out, okay, how personally can I not revisit this space, learn from it, and move forward. So as I move forward in the future, I would end up, repeating the same mistakes or in the same space again. The other about my crash too is I spent 6 months working with a company that does e-bike tours. Um, some friends became business partners to customers, we just have a type of relationship. They actually assisted me getting back on my feet during that 6 month period. And I broke my hand literally last day of my contract. Usually you would think you spend 6 months, you work, you hustle, do everything right. And literally Friday evening was my last day at work. Broke my hand Sunday morning. The average person would be like, what next, God? You know what I mean? Like, where to go? You gotta go from here next, God. You go from taking a break, doing what everybody wants done, challenges debt, challenges a child support, all the things. You got everybody on you, in your ears, and you're trying to figure out how to really navigate all the smoke and the chaos of the space that I've put myself in, and that really was a serious turnaround point for me because it was like a sigh of relief. And then in 4 hours, it was like, what no? What looked like a typical rut in the ground from just the tires of, as I said, off-roaders or motorcycles passing. There was actually, you could see a tree branch there. That tree branch actually had a rut underneath it. So that clipped my front wheel. I didn't notice it. And after that, I became a science experiment. And 100 and somebody feet later, I ended up all the way down. I'm not sure the camera could pick it up, but it's a dark patch of grass all the way past this area here with trees, where I landed. That's what caused me to lose my right hand. I broke this completely off. Had a couple other injuries, but I'm more focused on the right hand because this was a more serious injury. And like I said before, me for some reason wasn't taken as serious. But yeah, this was what caused me to have my life changed permanently. And was that turnaround point for me to figure out, like, I was already trying to figure out what to do next, but it kind of was laid out for me. I'll say this. This is hard for me because you're trying to share an experience that only I have 100% all the information on the pain, the trauma, the emotions, and then trying to share that across with, to be impactful. Sometimes it may feel that you're not doing it justice, in a sense, especially if you're a person who kind of last and face a danger like myself, and it may not hit home, but for how simple this happened, to the severity of my injury, to even be here shared, it's something that I don't take for granted. It's something that I even appreciate the persons who considered me or thought of me to even share this story, that it might help somebody, even if one person, But we are only one, if you really think about it. 100 people are 100 ones. So as much as 100 voices, it still takes one voice to start, And after losing everything, it just got to a point that I had to thank God and really give him that appreciation for allowing me to survive this, because I never saw somebody die twice, It's good to be here breathing a year later, still sharing, interacting, The real meat of the matter is that it keeps you moving, keeps you driven, keeps you in a space that you can get up. Because the funny thing that a lot of people don't know about this, we started up there, got here, I fell there. After the crash, I was able to get myself together. I missed the first hit to myself, had to split my hand and then walk back up. And if you saw the view from before, it's more than 100 feet to get back to the top, you know? And some people, when they get to that space of trauma, that space of giving up, that's what they do. They give up. And if I had given up a year ago, that would have been my last spot moment on earth, you know? But it didn't. So for those listening, watching, don't stop. Don't give up. That's the first part. And the final part to this situation is it came back a year later. It's 2025. You know, this happened in 2024. And it came back a year later. You know, braced my hand up. Had all my protection on this time, you know, full face helmet, all my riding gear. And I rode this route again. I didn't ride it with the, you know, usual mountain bike, adrenaline crazy, you know. There's more of a cruise. Even got at this point, it was a little nerving, but it was just that I had to do it. Because a lot of people don't know this was the beginning of the ride. You still have to get back over the Bath St. John. The cliffs, you're right at the edge of the island. Like I said, the views are amazing. You know, there's the old turntable for the train, a lot of history of our base that a lot of people not see, if not hikers or bikers, you know. It's the first time in my life that something on that level of injury happened, and it was not funny. It was not joy, and they feel anything nice about it. And then the fact that I ended up losing the ability for the full use of my right hand. You know, as much as people still see me going forward, one thing I would say, I love my experience is that a lot of persons see me and they go like, "Your hand was broken?" I say, "Yeah." Which hand it was? I said, "Exactly," because I don't want to focus on that point. You know, because for me personally, it takes me back to May 5th. I don't want to go back there. I want to move forward to May 5th, 2026. You know what I mean? 2027. But most people, because of how they themselves with a handling situation, are shocked that in less than a particular time period, I'm kind of still smiling, still able to be present in different spaces. And I will say one thing that this experience has taught me from the many experiences in 33 years that I've been saved. I gave my heart to Christ at 9 years old, and ever since then, an interesting journey occurred. You know, and it's not ironic that I got baptized this year, 2025, September 20th at when you church at TFM, and somebody brought to my attention that 9 from 4 to 33. We're quite down across at 33 years old was again. So it's an interesting analogy of life and how, you know, turning around your life. All it takes is one decision, one understanding, and if you have one thing to hold on to, don't ever let that go. And I know some persons, when they're looking for something to strive for, I've always used my kids, and not from a perspective of I want to do better for them. I actually want me to be the example of both things good and bad, so that they will have a kind of a balance in the middle to know, well, hey, you know, my dad did this on the extreme positive, all right, let me balance it. Oh, extreme negative, let me balance it. Oh, and so in the middle, they should be a lot better off than the things that I had to learn on my own, either shared or unshared. So my journey, interacting with persons of all age groups, ethnicities, I'll say that it's a unique and interesting thing to see something you can't explain, and it's right there, but you can't put your finger on it. So what I love to do is I've become to enjoy is when a person can look at me and say, "How can you be so happy when this? How can you be smiling when this? How can you be?" I mean, something as simple as I give an example. Recently, was in the port, doing a favor for somebody. You know, one item to pick up took 2 days. Everybody couldn't understand why I was smiling every single day. You know, me and 20 persons, just 90 people miserable, one person laughing and smiling, one person just cheerful, talking to people, interacting. Because even though some is as a man, a good friend of mine once told me that all intentions aren't good intentions. You may have an intention for something, you know, to help somebody or see the need to help somebody, but you may not even understand what you're needing. So I love the fact that person can see it automatically, you know, where there's something different about this person. I don't know what it is, but it makes sense. And like I tell persons, if I look like I'm doing a good job, I'll take your word for it because I never see myself. You will always see me, right? So it's not like I go out of my way to save people, unless it's emergency, of course. But my interactions, my journey, even the fact of having this discussion here now, just from putting myself in places, hoping that I can learn, because I would like to learn first, because I got to better myself to be a better person, or just grow in a healthier space. And if while I'm there, I'm growing, if the space can learn from me, or even from my negative, do better, then I think it makes sense, because growth is hurtful, growth is painful, and the beauty of broken pieces is you always remember the brokenness. But even though you're broken, you're not always broken. And if you understand that, like, it will make it a lot more easier for you. Let me not say easier. It'll make it more manageable for when you have to make that decision of hurt and pain, to understand at least there's something else to move forward to. And as much as you're broken, the next piece can start to put you back together. And to continue breaking and breaking continually. And here's the joke. Doctors say that when you break a bone, it actually heals back stronger. So you tell me. It kind of speaks for itself in the medical environment, So you got to break it, go through the pain, but it heals back stronger. I would like to say that for turning around, it's how you manage it and how you turn. Because you can turn too fast and miss the point. You can turn too slow and lose the point. So what we say is that when you get the point, you can't go any further. Instead of butting the same dead wall, instead of trying to punch through the wall, just take a breather. Turn around, see where you came. Assess it. I mentioned to some of my students, I also mentor and coach kids, students in different subject matter, and I tell them that when you make a mistake and you do something wrong, if you never knew it, it can't be wrong. You're now learning. Enjoy the mistake. Enjoy the negative. That's a healthy negative. When you get the information out, you add what you know to what you don't know, and you grow. And once you grow in a healthy direction, you'll make a lot healthier choices. So also don't see a negative as the end. Always know you can make a different decision and make a choice. Turn around, either observe where you came from, or turn around, move away from the place that you're stuck. But what you can do, turn. Keep moving and turn.
Look, you have dark, and good and have evil.
Because this is a different generation, this is a different kind of skilled generation.
I saw a lot of things at, I would say, trauma.
In the heat of the moment, the adrenaline, I had so much things, I had so much to lose at that time.
Time to change, man. Time to turn around. Time to turn around.